Alrighty, guys. Good afternoon to you all here. Happy Monday, May 12th, 2025. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. And we're going to start out the video here today with a stormy day. We've got lots of showers and thunderstorms, very heavy rainfall on going back here into the east coast here, mid-Atlantic region. We've got a low pressure system, once again, that's been sitting here for the last couple of days, causing showers, storms, severe weather. We've got another low end threat for some tornadoes, some wind, and some hail all the way down towards Miami, Florida, and all the way up to almost Charlotte, North Carolina today, and into portions of Tennessee. So pretty decent low end threat today for some severe weather back down here into the southeast. We've also got a little low marginal risk up here into the north high plains today. Today and tomorrow and Wednesday are going to be our low end days for severe weather as we get ready for Thursday and Friday, where I'm expecting a significant severe weather outbreak on Friday at least, and Thursday as of right now, possibly maybe even going into Saturday. Those details are still a little bit to be determined. We're going to start to nail that forecast hopefully here by tomorrow in terms of what Thursday and Friday are going to bring. But we're going to discuss those risk zones more in depth. If you are back down here in the southeast, just be very mindful of those creeks, streams, and rivers. This isn't like catastrophic flooding, but this is a pretty decent amount of rainfall in this area. We could see anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of rainfall in this area here along the Carolinas into Georgia, maybe even up towards potentially Virginia. So just be mindful of that. Showers and thunderstorms around the low as well here. Going into Arkansas, portions of the Ohio River Valley. You're like, why is there no rain ongoing here in like West Tennessee? Well, that's because the low pressure system is actually sitting right there. It's not very far anywhere off from where we're seeing that shower and thunderstorm activity at. So just kind of an idea on where we're seeing that at as well here. You got some showers and storms back down here as well into portions of southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, but very stormy conditions ongoing here, and that's going to continue to add for the rainfall totals. There will be a pretty little brief afternoon period here where we could see an isolated tornado threat evolve here. You can kind of see where the main event of rainfall is and where your actual cells are firing off this afternoon with daytime heating. If any instability at the surface can be overcome and we can get storms to be surface based, we could get a couple of isolated tornadoes down there across Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and into Florida later on this afternoon. So just kind of something to kind of take a mindful look at there. Other than that, the plains, the Four Corners, everywhere else is pretty quiet. We got a little West Coast system moving in here. This is what's going to ultimately be bringing our severe weather threat going into Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday. So we're going to break down this forecast here for you guys, talk about what we're going to be seeing here over the next couple of days here, get you guys out the door as always. I will have a live stream here this afternoon as well, kind of breaking down everything. We'll get some questions answered. I know I haven't had a live stream in a couple days, guys. I've been super busy. We've been super busy with the kids, so I was enjoying also the Mother's Day weekend yesterday. So let's kind of talk about what we're going to see here with the Storm Prediction Center outlook for today. We do have those two marginal risk zones back down here into the southeast. We've got the Carolinas back down into Georgia, Tennessee, portions of Florida, as well as portions of the northern high plains. And then we've got a general thunderstorm risk here that goes back up here into the Northwest Pacific with some isolated showers and some thunderstorms. So not anything too crazy today ongoing. Low tornado risk, as I mentioned here. Western North Carolina back down here through South Carolina into portions of Atlanta. Eastern Georgia here back into portions of eastern Florida. Under the gun for a low isolated tornado risk. Threat for wind 5% in both regions and hail 5% down here into the southeast. So we're going to be watching all modes of severe weather today. Very low in severe weather days. Not expecting any outbreaks, anything too crazy. Just have alerts on your phones as always. Know where to go when you get warnings. We get to tomorrow, and we actually don't have any severe weather tomorrow. I actually would not be surprised if we saw some type of severe weather along the East Coast tomorrow. This low is going to be here for one more day. Wouldn't be shocked to see some type of low and marginal risk, maybe even back up here into the plains. Just something to kind of be mindful of, but we may not have any, severe weather ongoing tomorrow, which would honestly be great. Just general thunderstorms would be nice to have instead of severe weather. So hopefully we can escape that tomorrow. We get into the day 3 outlook, and this is where things get a little bit more complex and a little bit more interesting going into Wednesday's outlook here. We are looking at the day 3 outlook here for Wednesday. We've got portions of North Dakota, South Dakota, and portions of Nebraska and western Iowa and western Minnesota here. This is going to be for a low end wind, hail, and all hazards threat, at least as of right now. Very low tornado risk. This should mostly be a damaging wind and a hail threat. Now, once our short-range models come in play for Wednesday, we'll have a better idea what this is going to look like. We are going to have a little bit of a capping inversion aloft in the atmosphere that's going to help prevent most widespread convection from happening. We will have to watch, like I said, for any storms that do fire off in this environment, especially going into Wednesday night and into Thursday here, potentially seeing the threat for a couple of severe storms there. We'll keep you guys updated on that there, but if you're in the high plains, just be mindful of that. It's as we get into into the later half of the week here, this is where things start to get really interesting. The Storm Prediction Center has been very bold, still keeping that slight risk out. We're now 4 days out from this event, so tonight we'll get the day 3 outlook. We'll get the marginal risk, the slight risk, and I do think an enhanced risk will more than likely be added somewhere in the middle of this risk zone here, probably more in terms of Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois. This is kind of where I think we're watching for that upgraded enhanced risk potentially on the table. Now, there's still a lot of things to figure out for Thursday's forecast. Level 2-5 slight risk here, level 2 out of 5 slight risk here present for eastern portions of far extreme Minnesota, eastern Iowa, central and southern Minnesota, or not Minnesota, Wisconsin, I should say, western central Michigan, western Ohio, pretty much the whole state of Indiana, eastern and central and southern and northern Illinois, western Kentucky, northwestern Kentucky, back up into northwestern Tennessee and eastern Missouri. Now, this is where we're going to have to watch for a supercell day. Now, the models are really becoming more evident that we're going to see a couple isolated supercells, and then going into the overnight hours, probably an MCS. It's a mesoscale convective scale system moving through. Basically, a line of storms that produces damaging winds and a couple tornadoes. But I do think we are going to have just a tremendous amount of instability. We could be looking at instability values pushing anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 Cape, and that's a volatile atmosphere. So if things do come together, if the shear is placed correctly, if everything is placed correctly, we actually could get a severe weather outbreak on Thursday if this does in fact go the way that the models are trending it with. And we'll talk, like I said, more about that here in just a second. But this is just something to look at for Thursday. And then we do now have a day 5 outlook here for Friday, a small slight risk. And you're like, why is this so small? This is, western Kentucky, western and central Tennessee, Nashville, Bowling Green, getting up towards eastern portions of Missouri here in northeastern Arkansas. I do think this will expand a little bit, probably a little bit more towards the east here in terms of where we're going to see this at. Friday's still a little bit more complex as well in terms of where severe weather is going to be at, but there is that level 2 slight risk at play as well. And then we don't have anything for day 6, day 7, and day 8, but I do think there will be probably something going each day forward as we get closer to these events happening. So just something to be mindful of, looking at all hazards on Thursday and on Friday as of right now, with the damaging wind and hail threat probably being a little bit higher than that tornado risk. We'll just kind of see how things play out with that. Now, I do want to mention as well, here is the Triple HR model run for this afternoon. Here you see showers and storms, widespread convection ongoing here in the southeast and down into Florida. We'll start to see that low move its way closely here to the east very slowly. I do want to watch in this sector right here for about 1 o'clock to about 5 or 6 p.m. this afternoon for a couple brief spin-up tornadoes. Mostly Florida is cleared out by about 7 to 8 p.m. tonight, and then we're looking at showers and storms still moving through the mid-Atlantic here up into the Carolinas, but widespread coverage should start to dwindle as the sun sets and we lose instability. Don't have a lot of instability today, but just enough to keep storms at severe potential threshold. Then we get into Tuesday morning there and into Tuesday afternoon, and we start to see those storms are gone and out of here mostly by Wednesday morning. So not too crazy in terms of severe weather threshold today or tomorrow. Just be mindful of that. I do want to jump here to the GFS run. This is our latest 12Z run that's coming in. You can clearly see our next piece of energy here that's going to be giving us our severe weather threat. There's actually 2 pieces of energy. Subtropical jet stream, very big connection here. This allows for more robust bulk shear in the atmosphere. Then you've got your main trough moving in here. That'll be for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday's set up there. And then we've got our cutoff low that's still spinning down here. We've been talking about this pesky thing for days now, and it's finally going to be moving out after we get towards tomorrow and into Wednesday morning. So just something to be mindful of there. That low moves out, it's gone, and then we see this trough eject, and still a lot of uncertainty on what's going to happen with this on Thursday and Friday. If I could give you guys answers, all I really have is, if you're in a risk zone, be mindful that all severe weather hazards will be at play. There will be a capping inversion, but we will have a pretty volatile atmosphere if things do in fact shape up the way they could. What I'm starting to notice though is this cutoff low kind of displaces itself from the main jet stream here, and this could allow for another surface low to potentially develop here in and around the Dakotas. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a pretty wide range here of what we call bulk shear. This is basically your 500 millibar wind height projections here, and where we could see those mid-level winds at, and this gives us an idea of updraft potential, strong damaging wind potential, all that, etc. And where you see those stronger, brighter colors, or where we're going to have a better shot at seeing that. Now, if you're like in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas here, and you're like, I have shear, why don't I have severe storms? That's because the moisture is displaced away. You want to have your dew points, your shear, your instability, all that line up together in order to get severe weather to set up, and that really doesn't start to line up till about Thursday afternoon. As that surface low strengthens here, negative tilt trough here, those allow for more severe weather. We're going to have 2 modes, I think, of severe weather: the northern mode, and then we're going to have a southern mode. Depending on how far north that this low actually projects will kind of give us the main area of where I think we're going to see a higher tornado risk at. It looks like that's going to be more confined to Wisconsin and northern Illinois and Indiana and Michigan. We'll kind of see where that sets up as the short range models come into play, and I think more of a damaging wind and a hail threat will be at play for like Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, southern portions there. So just something to be mindful of. But this doesn't stop on Thursday. This goes through the overnight hours and then into Friday, and we're going to have we now go from a southwesterly flow to more of a west to easterly flow, and this promotes damaging winds and potentially even a couple of MCSs. Those are those mesoscale convective scale systems that move through, and these can allow for pretty significant damaging winds to develop. You can get a couple tornadoes, but morally damaging winds and hail are going to be your biggest threat, and that's going to be through Friday and then through Saturday. But look at this, guys. We are not done whatsoever. This is honestly the main event right here, and this isn't going to start to move into the country until about Sunday of the end of this week here. So yes, we're going to have severe weather on Thursday, on Friday, probably on Saturday and on Sunday across the eastern half of the United States here, but then we get into next next Sunday, and we've got another mega trough that's trying to come in. This is the one that I really want to watch for potential for maybe even an outbreak later next week. But we see this trough ejecting here. This becomes a very, very decent negatively tilted trough moving across Texas, Oklahoma. This would be the area that I would be watching for very, very closely going into next Sunday, into next Monday, and into next Tuesday, a week basically from today that we're going to have to watch. Now, this is over 7 days out. Take this with a grain of salt, but definitely just something that we need to be mindful of. And this would basically go through the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, going into Wednesday and Thursday. And then after that, things become a little bit more uncertain, but it does look like maybe even some more ridging and some zonal flow sets up around our ridge. So just something to kind of be mindful of here. Now, another thing I want to look at, it's going to be the low-level jet. Basically, our low-level wind fields in the lower levels of the atmosphere gives us an idea of our tornado potential here. And you can see going into about Thursday afternoon here, we are starting to see a little bit more of an uptick with our low-level winds. This is not, like I said, going to be some crazy tornado outbreak as of right now. Low-level wind shear is about 35 to 45 knots, so it is enough to support tornado potential, but I do still think damaging winds and hail will be our primary threats on Thursday afternoon. Now, with that low moves off on Friday afternoon there, and we do see a little bit more shear gets displaced Friday afternoon across the lower Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, so maybe a more better shot at seeing tornadoes on Friday. We'll kind of see how that unfolds. And then going into Saturday and Sunday, really looking at more just damaging winds and hail across the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast there, potentially if any severe weather threat does involve those areas. And then we go into Sunday and Monday, and then take a look at this, guys. I mean, this is where we start to really get things going here. I think going into Monday and Tuesday of the following week here, southwesterly flow here in the lower levels of the atmosphere, you get that directional shear promotes tornado potential there and all hazards as well. And then that goes into the Ohio Valley going into Wednesday and on Thursday there. So that's what we've got for that. Just an idea here of the instability. I want you guys to see this because this is quite interesting as well. Just looking at the instability values going into this week, we are just colossal instability. We're going to have pretty significant instability values. And I mentioned those instability values are going to be pushing anywhere from 4,500 to 5,500 CAPE, especially as we go through Thursday afternoon. Just take a look at this, guys. I mean, these are some values we have not seen in quite some time, probably going back to last year when we had peak heating season during the May, June, July, and August months here. But this is a pretty substantial amount of instability developing Thursday afternoon. And these storms that can fire off in this, very, very volatile atmospheric setup. So I do think Thursday could be a pretty significant day for all hazards if convection does in fact initiate. We're going to have to, like I said, watch for a capping inversion, but pretty substantial amount of instability at place going into Thursday. And then we go into Friday afternoon, and then we see once again just volatile atmospheric setup here for instability. So, like I said, instability is not a question. Moisture returns is not going to be a question. It's just the timing of the trough. Is the shear going to set up over top of everything? And we'll get more of those details in play as we go towards the Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. And then we get into Saturday and Sunday. Instability still cruising before we get ready for our next event. And I do think, like I said, watching Oklahoma, Texas, this is right at peak tornado season going into next week there, that 3rd and 4th week of May. We're really going to have to watch. Instability will definitely be a factor. And then that goes into the Ohio Valley into the next week there, and after that things become a little bit more uncertain in terms of what's going to happen with that. Now I do want to show you guys as well just an idea here before we wrap things up here of overall rainfall totals through the 20th here. And this is the next 7 to 8 day rainfall totals. You can see kind of where those higher totals are going to be at. The Southeast continuing to see anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of rainfall. And then potentially we could see anywhere from 3 to 5 inches rainfall across the high plains going, at least on this model run here, potentially into the end of this week and next week across the Minnesota, Iowa, and the Dakotas there. So just something to be mindful of, guys. I'll have a live stream here within the next hour. If you watch later on, we'll probably do another late night live stream tonight. I want to start getting more live streams out to you guys. That way we can keep y'all updated on everything going on. Make sure, as always, you guys if you come in the streams, be respectful. We'll ask questions. I'll get those answered as much as I can for you guys. I'll have my weather team in as always. I do appreciate y'all for watching this video. Stay safe. Have a wonderful Monday, and we'll see you in the next one.